Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. As Wednesday we like to see temperatures peaking around the 28 or 29 degree range, very warm conditions. It could dip through Thursday and Friday temporarily back to the low 20s, but into the weekend and start of next working week is likely to climb once again as the end of August and start to September looks very warm indeed. It does look generally pretty dry as well. There will be some showers around, but yeah, definitely quite a summery end to August and start to September. As we look at the longer range runs for the prospects over the next couple of weeks, the GFS is pretty exceptional today with a pretty major heat wave to start September. Kind of the conditions we're seeing over the next few days are warm, some even classify hot, but not really heat wave conditions, again not reaching those thresholds for 3 consecutive days. However, the GFS is producing that sort of caliber of conditions with the 15 degree isotherm pushing in, temperatures widely around the 30 degree mark for much of England, and yeah, it would be pretty incredible indeed, almost on par with what we saw last year. But as we'll see from the GM and the ECMWF, it doesn't have massive support. It does have support in terms of the overall pattern, which is higher pressure with warm air masses, but the exact dry and hot conditions we're seeing from the GFS is a little bit of an outlier at this stage, but again, I wouldn't rule it out. And then we'll be able to see that all come together with the ensembles at the end of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, do like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see, as I'm recording this, around 10 PM on Tuesday evening, we do have a few showers around at the moment. Nothing too major, but a line of showers stretching across England through to Wales. It is a weather front that is fragmenting as it pushes eastwards, and actually by Wednesday morning it will have disintegrated to pretty much nothing as those temperatures start to skyrocket for many areas. Now, if you look at the temperatures, you can see still warm ahead of that weather front because that's where all the warm air is. This is a cold front trying to push it out back into the North Sea, but it is going to be unsuccessful, and that warm air will actually push back northwards and westwards into tomorrow. Now, if you have a look at the latest UKV, again, if we do start on the precipitation, you can see that fragmented weather front slowly disintegrating away this evening and actually getting pushed further northwards with the showers into Wednesday, and this allows all that warm or even hot air to start to push in. Now, by Wednesday afternoon, there could be some heavy thundery showers in the north, especially through Scotland and maybe Northern Ireland, but for most it's very dry, and as I said, it is very warm as well. As we push into Thursday, it's slightly fresher as we do see a westerly flow returning, so it's going to be slightly cooler, but for some still in the low 20s, maybe even 23, 24 degrees, so still very warm for the end of August. By the afternoon, it's very dry conditions once again, lots of sunshine, so even though it won't be quite as hot and humid, it will still be a very pleasant summery day. Now, the same can be said for Friday, where again it looks pretty bone dry and really quite stunning. And then as we head into Saturday and Sunday, the wind direction shifts back to a southerly, and we start to see some very warm air starting to push back in, and this could turn it very warm or hot once again. Lingering weather fronts out in the Atlantic, they will try to push in for early next week, but they're coming up against this block of very warm air that we do have in place to start September. And as we see from the GFS in a minute, it really turns that thermostat up from upper air temperatures, which we're seeing here around the 12, 13 degree mark, more widely bringing in that 16, 17 degrees, which would give temperatures in around the 30 degree mark. So you can see it goes slightly fresher for Thursday, Friday, and then the heat starts to return again through the weekend towards Sunday. Now, if you look at the max temperatures as we head into Wednesday afternoon, you see temperatures peaking, as I said, around that 25 to 28 degree range. Very warm indeed. Maybe could peak at 29. I doubt 30. I had a bit more confidence in 30 a couple of days ago, but probably more around the 28, 29 degree mark. Into Thursday, temperatures do dip slightly, around 23, 24 at best, but widely high teens, low 20s. But as I said, a lot more sunny conditions around. Lots of dry conditions, so actually it probably will be, for the whole of the British Isles, actually a better day. Less oppressive with that humidity dropping. As we head into Friday, similar conditions. Temperatures actually starting to pick up a little bit again, maybe 22 to 24 more widely across England. As we head into Saturday, temperatures turning slightly higher, more widely around that 20 plus degree range, with many areas again 22, 23, 24, and by Sunday maybe getting up towards the mid to high 20s again, 25, 26, or even a 27. You see right in the bottom right of the screen, you can see 30 degrees being observed across northern France, and those conditions could be arriving for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, so it could be turning much warmer indeed. We'll have to wait and see the exact details, but yeah, it could be really quite stunning indeed as we head into the first full week of September. Now, as we go over to the GFS, which I said is an absolute stunning run today. If you're looking for an extension of summer, you couldn't get anything more exemplary than this. You can see we got southerly winds over the next 24 hours. Westerly flow returns temporarily for Thursday and Friday, but it's a much drier picture still. It's just a slightly cooler air mass. Into the weekend, high pressure re-emerges for Saturday and Sunday. Initially, in a fairly average air mass, you can see nothing too ridiculous, but it's as we head into Sunday, into Monday, that wind starts to strengthen from the south, and you see by Tuesday, Wednesday, the 15-degree isotherm starts to arrive, and it wafts in for the whole of the British Isles, turning much warmer and remaining very dry. That would be ridiculously warm and hot for that first full week of September. And it's not even just a couple of days, it's kind of a crescendo starting at 25 degrees on Monday, finishing by maybe even the low 30s come the weekend. So it would be absolutely stunning indeed as we head into next working week. Again though, this is one run, as I'll show you in a minute from the GEM. There are some other things that could be at play, specifically little cut-off lows that could develop. Luckily, the GFS here doesn't do anything like that. You can see any cut-off lows are more for well out in the Atlantic, not towards Europe. The GFS keeps it dry and warm all the way to the end of the following week, for eventually some slightly fresher air starts coming off the Atlantic. If we do just go back, let's have a look at one of the hotter days here. Probably here this Thursday into Friday. If we do zoom in and have a look at those 2 meter temperatures, can we actually have a look at the 3 hour intervals? You can see 3 p.m. next Thursday, 29 or 30 degrees. Stunning. As we move into next Friday, temperatures starting to pick up to widely 30 to 31, could peak at 32, 33, and then into the corresponding Saturday, again 30 to 31. So just those 3 days in themselves, without any of the other days around it, would constitute a heat wave. So yeah, GFS, exceptionally hot today, very pleasant, and a true extension of summer. However, if we do have a look at the GM, there's a similar overall pattern on sort of the macro scale, but it has quite a lot of differences at the surface. And as I said a couple of minutes ago, it is all due to a cut-off low. Now, as we head over the next couple of days, very similar. As we head into the weekend, the high pressure builds in, and we do see southerly to southeasterly winds. Warm air starts to waft in for Monday, and we get a couple of days of very warm, dry conditions. So it looks all very similar, all pretty stunning, all the way through to Tuesday. But look what happens with this low that drops down from Iceland. Now we stay fairly warm, especially for eastern areas through Wednesday, but then this low spins up exceptionally quickly into quite a severe little system, and it's wrapped up in all that hot air. Could be a lot of thunderstorms, lots of heavy spells of rain, and it does have a cold pool within it as well, so it probably would turn fresher eventually towards day 10. And again, if we put on the pressure level, you can see this cut-off low, completely cut off from the main jet stream. It is causing significant issues. If we look at the precipitation, lots of heavy rain spiraling around this system, and it would be, I must say, pretty miserable indeed. And if we do zoom into the United Kingdom, have a look at the accumulated precipitation, widely 1 inch to 2 inches of rain, and given that not much rain is falling over the next few days, this is mostly just coming from that cut-off low for a few days next week. So you can see overall the pattern is very similar. We both runs, GEM and GFS, get to that southerly or southeasterly wind. The GFS keeps high pressure completely involved and dominant. The GEM pushes in lower pressure, and we do see a cut-off low developing, and quite a severe cut-off low in itself, and yeah, would produce conditions that are completely contrary to the GFS, even though there's only a slight difference in the pressure, where we've got a cut-off low here that we don't on the GFS, or we do have a smaller one, it's just much further out in the Atlantic. Now, if you compare to the ECMWF, broadly very similar to the two runs all the way into early next week. High pressure in control, southerly or southeasterly winds, and then by Monday we start to see maybe a little cut-off low riding by, and it does linger to our south, but actually by day 10 it gets pushed back away and we go under higher pressure, very similar to the GFS. The only caveat is we haven't got southerly winds here. It's more of an extension of the Azores high, so even though it would be very dry, it would be very sunny, it would be pretty beautiful indeed, it wouldn't be quite as hot. If we look at those 2 meter temperatures, by midday we're only touching 20 degrees, so by the middle of the afternoon we're most likely going to be low 20s, maybe mid 20s at best. So this scenario would be very similar in terms of sunshine, dry conditions to the GFS. It just probably would be 5, 6, 7 degrees cooler, because those upper air temperatures aren't quite as warm. So still would be equally great, but just not quite as hot. But as you can see from the ECMWF though, it is still flirting with that cut-off low, just nowhere near as much as the GM. So you kind of see a pattern developing here. 3 runs, very similar, with the overall pattern just different with how it develops that cut-off low and where that does head. And that could be the game changer as we head into next week. Now, to finish by looking at the latest ensembles, these are the latest GFS. So you can see very warm over the next couple of days. Drops later this week, but it stays very dry. So yes, slightly fresher, but you probably won't feel it. You probably still love the sunshine outside. Temperatures rise into the weekend. Pretty much all ensemble members do that, back towards double digits, so back into the mid-20s. And then we kind of get a bit of divergence into next week, where we have got some very hot runs appearing, like the GFS operational run, and some cooler runs back towards average. Definitely been a bit of a trend towards those cooler runs from this latest ensemble suite, but we do still have very hot runs, including that operational GFS. So yeah, GFS going for that very warm, hot, sustained pattern, but I'd say about 2/3 of the ensemble members don't, and go for a bit more unsettled and slightly cooler pattern. So yeah, definitely a bit of discrepancies appearing here. If we actually have a look at the 6 o'clock run, you can see it is similar, but there were much more hotter runs. So we'll have to wait and see for tomorrow's video to see whether this 12 o'clock run that we've just looked at is a bit of an anomaly, or whether it is setting a trend for those hotter runs starting to disappear from the output. We can only guess at this stage. We'll have to wait for another day or 2 of runs before we can say with any great certainty. And if we do compare finally to the ECMWF ensembles, these are the latest midday runs. They are much more confident in something hotter early next week. Slightly cooler through Thursday, Friday, and then it warms up again, and it stays warm for a good 3, 4, 5 days before trending slightly cooler in around 10 days' time. Much more delayed than the GFS goes. And you see the ECMWF here stays very warm, not quite as hot as the GFS run, but the operational here from the ECMWF is still very warm and very dry. And the control run as well, which is a thicker blue line, is very similar. So it does look like that the main operational runs from both the ECMWF and the GFS are very warm and very dry. The ensembles from the ECMWF are pretty warm and fairly dry, not bone dry, still precipitation around. The GFS ensembles are not so much. And then the GM operational run is pretty absurd, with very unsettled conditions. And if you do actually compare to its ensembles, you can see it has got some support. There's about a 50-50 here between those warm, hot, dry runs and those very unsettled, cooler runs. So yeah, a bit of model wobbling here. I don't know actually if you can class it as a bit of a wobble, because we haven't had kind of a definitive answer from the models, but they are toying between 2 quite contrasting outcomes here. Very unsettled, slightly cooler, or very warm, maybe even hot and dry. I definitely know which one I would prefer, probably most people watching this video would prefer, but we will have to wait and see. Very small differences can make major changes at the surface, so I think it's going to take another couple of days, and I don't think we'll have any real major confidence in the overall pattern, probably until later this week. But we'll continue to have a look at it, and hopefully the models do start to converge on one specific scenario. The kind of the macro scale is kind of figured out with high pressure being around. It's just what happens to those little pesky lows, which will make all the difference. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.